Hi, welcome back to the Therapy Pages podcast, where we talk about mental health, therapy books, and self-help and the like. So today we are talking about Pema Chodron's book, When Things Fall Apart. Great book. So compared to our other podcast book, I have to say this book is already much better. I enjoyed it much more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what's the subtitle? Hard advice for
difficult times.
Yeah, and it really is true. I think that subtitle, to me, really speaks to what the book is, because it really just gets you to slow down and think about what you're going through as just a normal human process, right? I think,
yeah.
I know I've read it. The first time I read it was when I was going through something really difficult, and I was going to give it to a family member, but then we weren't talking. So, but I think it really teaches you to take, to lean into uncertainty.
Yes, there's a lot of uncertainty going on right now in the world. So Pema is a Buddhist nun, right? Is she a nun?
She was. I'm not sure if she's. I guess she still is. But I did not know that she was married twice and she has children. And the way she came to this was after a divorce. She was devastated. That's when her things fell apart.
Yeah, since she has a interesting sense of humor, because she talked about her, I think it was at least her first ex-husband, a little bit in the book, and has a good sense of humor, which I appreciate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I think in doing this podcast, we were really trying to focus on if we would recommend this book to our clients or not, and I would absolutely recommend it to clients.
Yeah, absolutely. And clients have even recommended it to me. So,
right,
as a book that's helped them. So, yeah, I would definitely recommend the book. One of the I guess the premise is really just looking at difficult times in your life, not as obstacles, but rather as opportunities to grow and to gain insight into yourself, and just as a human condition that, suffering is, it happens and pain happens. But it's what we do when we're at those times and how we can learn so much about ourselves.
Yeah, instead of coming to a place where we feel anxious or we feel depressed or whatever that emotion is, and we want it to go away. So we will avoid it or do something else. But I think this is that idea of a growing experience. And she talks in the book about looking at it as a learning and growing experience, which I really like, because that helps when you're going through a hard time to remind yourself, well, I want to grow from this and learn from this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that we often use, whether it's, overuse medication or other drugs or alcohol, to not feel the pain, because that's the human urge to feel better. But when we actually feel the pain, and that the discomfort, we grow, we appreciate the good times or the comfort or the things that are going well in our lives even more.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I think so. You and I both have a pretty strong mindfulness background, but would you recommend this for someone who maybe doesn't know anything about mindfulness, or is just starting?
So it's interesting, because I've recommended this to people, and some of them were like, "Oh, yeah," because she does talk about Buddhist thoughts and I guess philosophies and some teachings. So some people came back to me and said, "Wow, that was it was really hard for me to get into." But people who are open to, because she describes it all, so it's not like you have to be a Buddhist to read it. So people who are open to learning about, what the different words or ideologies are, I think I would definitely recommend it too.
Yeah.
Or people who can just take away, they don't even have to get too caught up in that. Like, just take away from the book, even the headings of the chapters. There's always something in each chapter that you can take away, that you don't have to be a fully informed Buddhist to So yeah, I would, but I would probably have a conversation with them first about how comfortable they are with it.
Yeah, that's a good point. I like the idea of taking what you can from the book and maybe leaving the rest. And that reminds me of mindfulness, because when I first started practicing any meditation, I would get really frustrated and be like, I can't do this because I was having other thoughts or getting distracted. But that's all part of it. And I love how she talks about that so openly, and reminding that we are all human. That's going to happen. That's part of the meditation.
It just reminded me, I remember being in your office, at your old office, and you just said, I hate my mindset.
I hated mindfulness. I used to hate now I love it. But I think it's because of when I first learned about it. If I would have learned about it from Emma, I would have maybe had a different experience.
Yeah. But instead learning, so one of the books that I always recommend for first time or beginners is Mindfulness for Beginners by John Kabat-Zinn.
Right.
So that's a really good book for getting into this.
Yes. Or I think even Marsha Linehan's DBT, Mindfulness, is a kind of a introduction to mindfulness.
Yeah. Really any of those. But I think this book goes beyond mindfulness in that whole idea of embracing uncertainty, the resilience of the human condition, and being okay with not being grounded. Like, what is the one thing? Discovering truth and groundlessness. Like, I think that, yes, like that. But we're so conditioned to not want to do any of that.
Right, very conditioned because it feels bad.
Yeah.
And she talks about how when you start to do that, it feels bad because all of those feelings are coming to the surface. So that's a good reminder too, even though maybe it feels bad in the moment, a little more long-term sense of peace.
Some other ideas are, facing fear with tenderness and curiosity. So, fear, I think, motivates us to do so many things. I mean, just look at the world right now. There's so many, I think violence, I think other things happen because of fear. We're afraid of the other. So instead, facing that with curiosity and facing it with, okay, well, you are just another human being. We don't have the same ideologies or we think differently, but let me be curious about who you are, what you believe. Let's have a conversation.
Right.
And I think that's something that is, again, another theme in the book that I really like.
Yeah, and how you can even do that with yourself, with your own feelings and thoughts, is looking at it with curiosity. Like, well, where is that thought coming from? Instead of having the judgment on, like, why am I having that thought? It's awful. And I'm having that. And that's what you can use with other people.
Yeah. And the term Maitri, is that what
I think? Yeah.
About being compassionate with yourself.
Yes.
Yeah. That just goes into that also. That so many times, and I know I have this with clients, but so many times, like you say, oh, well, forgive yourself grace. And like, well, that's really hard to, I can't do that.
Yeah. Many people can't do that because it is really hard. Even though someone else has forgiven them.
Right. Or they've forgiven other people.
Yes.
Yeah. Right. So being able to just kind of give that unconditional acceptance of, things happened and compassion for yourself. So that's hard. And it is, again, another overreaching theme.
Yes. Yeah. A lot of that idea of compassion with any feelings that come up is really helpful, I think. And yes, it may be hard to do in the beginning, but it is all great.
Yeah. And things that we're just not used to. And we don't learn this, I think, like just in living, like every day. Like it really, I think you have to think about it, because our knee jerk is to judge, and our knee jerk is to, oh, I did something wrong. What's wrong with me? Instead of, oh, I don't like how that turned out. Let me reframe that for myself. What can I learn from that? The action that I did or somebody else didn't feel good. So what can I do? How can I, what can I do different?
Another theme of the book that's been on my mind since reading it is just that the idea of impermanence. Because I get so stuck on that. Almost feeling like, you have to get to a place where you're feeling comfortable, or a place where you're feeling happy. But her point is that once you get to that place, then that changes.
Right.
So
yeah.
there's kind of not much point in always getting to the next thing because everything is
Yeah. Yeah. And life is unpredictable.
Very unpredictable.
Mhm.
Yes.
So what is the only constant is change? Like I think that's I think something that she really talked about.
Yes. Change is
A
constant.
theme. And then back to mindfulness, like that really being in touch with it doesn't mean sitting down for an hour or doing silent retreats, which is great if you want to do that, but really just getting to know yourself, getting to know your own experience and what your living in the world feels like to you, what that is. So
yeah, and what mindfulness means to do, and because there's so many different ways to practice meditation or going for a mindful walk, being outside in nature, whatever works.
Yeah. And I think just as in DBT, where we start with mindfulness, I mean, it's usually the first one, right?
It is, yeah. So dialectical behavior therapy, which we are both trained in, is a huge incorporation of mindfulness, and the points that Emma talks about definitely incorporate mindfulness and DBT.
Yeah. So let's see. There were some quotes that I just wanted to share. I think I have them on here. Things don't really get solved. They come together and they fall apart. They come together again and they fall apart again. So that's that idea of impermanence, right?
Yes.
And I think just I would be reading and some of these things like they just hit me like, wow, yes, that is so good. Like that is so true. Relaxing with the present moment, relaxing with the hopelessness, relaxing with death, not resisting the fact that things end, that things pass, that things have no lasting substance, that everything is changing all the time. That is the basic message. And that's so, I think we could talk about it for hours probably, but it really, it boils down to, and I don't know, acceptance.
Oh yeah.
And just leaning in and acceptance of I guess as Tara Brach talks about, like radical acceptance, like just the world is as it is and your life is as it is right now. Now that doesn't mean you can't make changes or you can't do things differently, but you can't change the past. So being able to just accept and even if we want to make it broader, like the world right now, there's a lot of conflict, there's a lot of tension, and we can't change that, but we can learn how to accept, and we can change our little bits, within our circles. But so I think I just think that's a really important piece of this book, that if you take just that away, just being able to lean in to the difficulty, lean into the fear, lean into the pain, the grief, and allow yourself to feel it, not cover it up.
Yes, without trying to change it in the moment and just being in that feeling, which is really hard to do, and that's why people feel worse sometimes when you start practicing those skills.
It is hard to do, and it's so counter, to
to our immediate reaction,
to what we like, I got to run away from this pain, and so that's it. I think when or if you can start to really lean in, it just can change everything. It can change your experience. It can change your life in so many ways, because you're no longer striving. You are living presently and more fully. When you live presently, you live much more fully. So,
yeah, and being in a place of acceptance includes feeling that in your body as well. So I think that's something also that Emma talks about a lot, is including both your mind and your body in that connection, and being able to notice that and feel that. She talks about that feeling you get if you're maybe doing a stretch or something and it feels uncomfortable, and the urge to want to change that, to feel more comfortable. But how can you sit with that kind of uncomfortableness? Maybe not make a change.
Yeah, because you're gonna, in that passage, she talks about like sitting meditation, and you want to move your leg. So you move your leg. Well, then in a few minutes, you're going to want to move your leg again. And then, so I think, yes. So instead of moving your leg, being curious about, I want to move my leg. What does this feel like? Or, so.
I'm remembering yin yoga. Have you ever done yin yoga? So they make you hold a position for a long period of time, and that's very much how it feels. Like, I'm so uncomfortable. Just kind of like, oh, please, tell us to move.
Right, right.
But that gives you time to sit with that emotion and how that feels.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. 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 So, I mean, I think it's a 10/10. I definitely would recommend this book.
Absolutely. Yes.
Again, there's some caveats. Like, I would make sure they understand it's heavy on the Buddhist perspective, but you can also just keep going, and you don't need to know all of that.
You don't, right? And you don't have to believe in that philosophy 100% either. So I think it's important to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was trying to think. I mean, I think our last podcast we did pros and cons. I don't know if I really have any cons.
No, I don't think I do, because the message is just so important, and I think it's really important right now. And preparing for this, just reading some things that other people have said about it, and other other podcasts that have covered this book. Actually, everybody kind of says the same thing, and even interviews with Pema, it just, it's not rocket science.
It's not.
Really
it sounds easy at times. It's not easy.
It's not necessarily easy, but boy, it takes away so much suffering. So the pain. I guess this is what I mean when I say, like, the suffering is I think somewhat optional, but the pain we're faced with pain or difficult times, however you want to define that, right? But
yes.
I think the suffering, and this is a DBT principle too, yes, right? The suffering is, do we accept it or do we not? So when we don't accept it, we're just kind of banging our head up against the wall. Yes. And that's where suffering happens.
Yes, and that's what Marsha Linehan said, who created the DBT program, is talking about that difference between pain and suffering. So that pain happens all the time, every day, but the way she says the way out of suffering is through acceptance.
Which is kind of what she says.
Yes, they're somewhat similar. Yes, very true. So that's such a good point. So yes, we can't avoid pain. No one, but you can maybe not suffer too much, much to that pain by accepting, leaning into things more instead of fighting.
Yeah. So I think that, I mean, if I were to say my overall takeaway of the book, that's pretty much what it is really like lean in and look at obstacles as opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely. And mine too. And learning, and every opportunity is a learning experience. Every time you think that you screwed something up or something didn't go the way you wanted it to, you learn. And the idea that everything is impermanent, even us, we are also impermanent.
Yeah. And we're human, and people die, things change, you lose jobs, or things happen, tragedies happen. Does that change your life for the worse forever? Or can this be something that you go through and you allow the feelings, and you talk about, you rage, you can scream, you can do whatever, and you don't run away from it, you stay in it. And that is a really, really hard thing, I think, to do until you start to do it. And then I personally feel like it gets a lot easier.
It does, yeah. When you remember to do it,
and
changing those neural pathways to be able to do it.
That's true. Yeah.
And I think this book for me, I never read it before, so I think it came at a really good time, because I was really struggling and everything going on in the world, and like figuring out, well, what can I do? And yes, there is that question, what can you do? And I think you can do things. And there's a big part that you just have accepted.
You just lean in.
Yep.
Yeah. So compassion, courage, and resilience.
Yes, all very important.
Yeah. All right. Good.
So this also leads into a group that we are starting on this book. So.
Yes. So a 6-week workshop type experience. And right now it's in person. We're talking about hybrid or virtual opportunities. So if you're interested, reach out. But we will be doing more Each week we'll be focused on a few of the chapters, and we'll be really practicing and also doing a mindfulness activity each week.
Yes. Yeah, and if you want to do a mindfulness activity, just to start with, I think body scan meditation is a really good one to do. And it's very simple. It doesn't have to be a long, drawn out thing. You can just start with your
Let's
toes.
do it.
Go ahead. I love body scan meditation. I do them so quickly now that I don't even know what the step for is. I just do it very quickly and just like throughout my body, noticing. Are there any tensions?
Yeah. I interrupted. Sorry. So yeah, you start with your toes.
Start with your toes. Yes. Or you can start at the top of your head, whichever you prefer. You can go either direction. So.
And you just notice. You don't try to change,
Yes.
right? So you just, if you're sitting, you just notice, okay, how do my toes feel? And then you work up, all right, how does my, what do I notice in my calves? And then you just keep going up through all of your body parts. And you're not trying to change. You're just increasing awareness. And increasing awareness in your experience is really, really important for all of the other stuff that you want to do. So all the lessons like in Pema's book, and again, that's why we start with mindfulness, because if we're not aware, then we don't know. So we make assumptions.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it can help you also notice maybe if you have pain in your stomach, what does that mean? Because it's different for everybody. Or when you're angry, where do you first feel that in your body?
Yeah.
And like Dory said, to not change anything and also to not judge yourself.
Yes, that's huge.
Having pain, I was like, oh, my arm hurts. Was it because I'm getting older and I wake up and my arm hurts? And there's all that judgment, that goes along with that. But you're reminding yourself it's not about that. So how do you let go of that judgment, which is really hard to do.
But she also addresses that. So, she addresses letting go and having self-compassion. And so I think if you're open to reading a book that has a Buddhist feel and some Buddhist terminology, this is a great book for, just pointing you in the direction of healing and acceptance. And like I said before, it's not all like you don't have to be a practicing Buddhist to get it. She just uses some terms and ideas, which I found helpful, and some of the people I recommended it to have found helpful. But yeah, it in these times, it's difficult. There's a lot of conflict throughout the world, and a lot of people are suffering. So this is a really good time. So yes.
It is, and I would recommend it for anyone. Like like Dory said at the beginning, even if you just pick a chapter or a few pages, then
oh, that's true. That's a good point, because you don't have to read it in order.
No, you don't have to read it in order.
Yeah,
I did not read it in order.
Yeah, no, and I didn't either the first time. So yeah, you definitely can just go through the headings of the chapters. Oh, this resonates with me today. I'm going to read that. And some people just use it even like that. Almost as like an affirmation for them. Like okay, this is what I'm going to go with today. What can help ground me today? So,
and Pema has a lot of videos out there too. If you want to listen to those, other ones. She has some she talks about this book, but also many other books that she wrote.
Yeah, and a lot, her books all have basically the same theme. But resilience, letting go, impermanence. Yes,
let's get back to that.
Yeah, and curiosity, resilience. I said that already. So other books we can post, other books on mindfulness or that maybe are similar, we can post. We already talked about a couple. Well, anything DBT related, because the way Marsha Linehan formulated mindfulness, I think is really user easy, right?
Yes, user friendly for sure. Yes, yeah, especially if you're just getting into it. Because she doesn't just talk about mindfulness; she uses other skills as well. But I think it's a really good start. Tara Brach too.
Tara Brach.
If you're interested in acceptance.
Tara Brach wrote Radical Acceptance, and in that book, obviously she talks a lot about acceptance and facing fears and things. But she also has exercises throughout the book. She's got mindfulness practices. Some are longer, some are shorter. John Kabat-Zinn, I think he's written a ton of books, and his books are also very accessible, very user friendly. And there's a whole bunch more. Chena Chebwe. I can't remember how to say his name, but yeah. Titnahan.
Yes, yeah.
So lots and lots of books, and we will put some resources on the page.
Yes, and if you're interested in learning more or working through Pema's book, reach out to us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the workshop. If you have interest, reach out. So I guess that's it. Anything else?
So, and yeah, and if you are a therapist and you want to come on our podcast and review a book, let us know too.
Yeah,
I'm not sure what our next book is going to be. We have a whole list. So,
any suggestions?
Let us know. Yes,
and we'd love to have more people talking about it with us. So we can set it up as a Zoom or as whatever. So, all right.
Well, have a good day. We'll see you guys soon.
Bye.
Bye.